Welcome to In Focus on this Sunday, September 21st, 2025. I'm Cheryl Wills. Today we turn our attention to public safety in Queens. Residents in the borough left devastated by the double homicide of an elderly couple kidnapped and killed inside their own home in Bellerose. Our guests on this Sunday, Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz. Her message to residents who don't feel safe in their own homes. Plus, Kevin Livingston is also with us. How his nonprofit 100 Suits has evolved over the years and includes violence interrupters trying to keep the peace. And later, we remember the longest serving district attorney in the history of Queens, the legacy of Judge Richard Brown, who died in 2019. All that and so much more happening now on In Focus. Let's begin today's conversation with Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz. Madam DA, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Cheryl.
On Thursday, you broke some news. A Texas man was charged with making terroristic threats against mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. What else can you tell us about this case?
It was an interesting case, and pursuant to the complaint and pursuant to the indictment and the charges that we filed, he's accused of making a terroristic threat against the assemblyman. He is now a sitting assemblyman, remember that. And so when there was violence that was threatened against him and his family, you should be shot in the head, anti-Muslim comments, and a lot of really descriptive and very disturbing, but also, as I allege, illegal language that was used against the assemblyman, trying to make a terroristic threat against him. Don't get into your car, things of that nature. We have to be very careful in today's world about the hate language that is out there and the violence that can occur from the language. Words have consequences, meaning in today's world. And so, it would have been irresponsible not to press charges and not to bring charges against this Texan man. He was caught in Texas and he was brought up to court today and he was arraigned today.
Okay. And in this era of political violence,
yes,
we are seeing, of course, we just had the horrific shooting of Charlie Kirk and so many others. What do you think, what do you make of the political climate? And is that what caused you to act so swiftly in this case?
Well, what caused me to act swiftly was that it would have been, like I said, irresponsible not to. This was a threat against him. This was a threat against his family, his children, his wife. He was told not to be careful when he sleeps, watch out for starting his car, things of that nature. And in today's world, like I said, where it's, a dangerous climate. And people, in my view, people need to just slow down and they need to stop the rhetoric. Rhetoric turns into violence at times. And my job is to make sure that I keep the people of Queens County safe. And in this particular case, this was a threat against an elected official who's not only a candidate, but he's really trying to do his job as an assembly member as well. And so you have a terroristic threat, which is trying to change the course that he has laid for himself as a policy. There is free speech, there's no doubt about it, but we do need to be careful that we keep people safe in the meantime.
Did you contact the assemblyman's camp and tell them about these threats, and what reaction did they give you?
So anything about the investigation, right, I wouldn't be able to talk about, but I can tell you that this man from Texas was arraigned today on these threats as a hate crime, because there were many anti-Muslim comments as well. So the threats that were done as a hate crime.
Okay, let's move on. It's been a tough week for residents in Queens. You know about the double homicide in Bellerose, of course. Frank and Maureen Olson, both in their mid-70s, brutally murdered in their own home. And a suspect, Jamel McGriff, now in custody. What more can you tell us about this case which really rattled residents in Bellerose?
And it should, right? So when I find, I've been doing the DA's job now for 6 years, which is amazing to me. It feels like yesterday and it feels like 30 years ago. So it's both. But I find that cases like this really do rock the community because they're seemingly so random.
Right.
This is a man who knocked on a door of a woman And then when he said, I'd like to come in and charge my phone. She said no. She closed the door And this defendant ended up at the Olson's house. And so he came into the yard and he was in there and talking, and he pushed his way into the house of this older couple in their 70s. And many hours later he came out and there was a fire happening. So the seemingly randomness of this, and it's still under investigation, but that is seemingly what it is. And that rocks a community because you never know, right? You're in your house, you're watching a ball game or you're having dinner, and when something like this happens, it leads you to believe and feel that you're not as safe as you should feel. And so it was a disturbing case. I will tell you that the hunt for him and the way that the police and our office got together and made sure that we really tracked him, and the police department did an amazing job on this. The man not only left the house, but then went to 2 other boroughs, right, the Bronx and Manhattan. He used the man's card, the male victim's card, Mr. Olson's card, at Macy's. He not only used his credit card, but he used his own rewards card, which is amazing to me. He pawned the phones that the couple had. And when, by the way, keep in mind, when you pawn a phone, you have a lot to do. There's video, there's all this stuff. Anyway, and then went to movies. And so 2 days later, from not knowing anything about his identity, they were able to arrest him in Manhattan, and we're going to bring him to justice.
What's your message to residents in Bellerose and all over this city who are just uneasy? They're afraid to open their door. They're afraid to pick up the phone. They're living in a state of fear because of horrific cases like this.
You need to protect yourself, as always. You need to make sure that you are safe. You need to take every precaution that you possibly can. But my message as the District Attorney of Queens County is when all of that fails, and when you end up being a victim, people also need to know that there's accountability. People need to know that if something does happen to them on the subway or in their house or on the street, that there will be accountability for those criminal actions. And I try to provide that. So it may not be able to turn back the clock at all, but the accountability factor, I think, and I would hope, sends a very clear message, not only to the community, that there will be that, but to someone who might try to commit a crime, that, listen, we're gonna look for you, we're gonna find you, and we're going to hold you accountable for your actions.
Last week, you announced a major gun bust involving weapons transported from Georgia right to Southeast Queens.
Yes.
And you laid the weapons out, showing that the iron pipeline is still very active.
It's interesting, Cheryl, because a lot of people are focusing now on ghost guns, right? Those guns that you literally make in the basement of your house or in a bedroom somewhere. For a 30-minute YouTube, you can buy parts of a weapon on the internet, and a lot of times it's plastic, so you can't, it won't go off on a magnetometer when you're walking through it, a metal detector. And that's very dangerous, and there's a lot of focus on that for good reason, because ghost guns are becoming the gun at issue now in a lot of robberies. But at the end of the day, there's still an iron pipeline, and in Georgia, there was a defendant buying weapons in Georgia legally. And then they come up the east coast of the United States, as you said, called the Iron Pipeline. And then they were going to come here and sell those guns to our children in the borough of Queens County. And there was an undercover officer who risks his life every time he goes into the situation, who bought all those guns. So because he put his life at risk and because the office was involved in this investigation, lives were saved. 77 guns were sold to this undercover officer that would have been sold to someone else. And by the way, since you are so knowledgeable on our borough of Queens County, and you really are, and I love the fact that you come to us so often in our borough, and I thank you for that. I mean, they were sold in a McDonald's in Springfield Garden, not in a McDonald's, sorry, in a parking lot, out at a McDonald's parking lot. And so it's happening right in the community. And it was happening, 77 guns are in the hands now of the New York City Police Department instead of on the streets of Southeast Queens.
Gang violence is something your office is very focused on, especially in Southeast Queens. Many residents are on edge about the gangs, not just in Southeast Queens, but all over the city. What is your office doing about it?
We did several takedowns when I first came into office. We had some of them in Astoria, Woodside, Southeast Queens, Far Rockaway. But in Southeast Queens, about 4 years ago, we took out about 33 gang members, right? And so we did a long-term investigation. When Amir Griffin was killed, if you recall, in Baisley Houses, he was killed a year before I became the district attorney. And when I came into office, I wanted to make sure that we got everyone involved in that, right? Who bought the gun? Who sold the gun? How was it being hidden? Why did they think that Amir Griffin was part of a gang, which he was not, by the way? And how did he end up being killed in that schoolyard playing basketball? Like, you know, I have a teenage son. Every teenage, kids are out there, hopefully getting fresh air and not in front of the computer all the time. Anyway, so we did an indictment of taking out 33 gang members at that time. But when you take out the leaders, there's a vacuum that fills. And so now, in my 6th year, we're starting to go back and prosecute those gang members who are filling the vacuums of the gangs we took out before. And so this was one of those cases. There was a gang of 12 that filled the vacuum of Money World and the Trap Stars from about 5 or 6 years ago. And now they started a new gang called Floss Money Ballers. And we arrested 12 of them. We alleged that over half of them are shooters.
And many of them are young.
I will note for the record, by the way, that we arrested them the Thursday before Labor Day, and there wasn't one shooting in Southeast Queens that weekend.
Explain how your office works with the community through gun buyback events.
Yes.
That's something you're also very active with.
So when I became the DA, I wanted to make sure that, I was the borough president before, as you know, and I wanted to make sure that there was a way that we were building trust. Building trust in a community is an amazing benefit in so many different ways, right? Not only are you building trust, which is a good thing for everyone, because young people should learn to trust law enforcement, and we should behave in a way that deserves that trust, right? So we started going to the community, we started working with the community. I wanted to make sure that I had eyes and ears in the neighborhoods. And I think that's so important when you're prosecuting. Number one, witnesses trust you more, right? When you're part of the community. I go to basketball games and I'll throw up, the jump shot, and then I'll run really fast. But then all those teenage kids see me, right? And then I go and I send people that are non-lawyers into the community also. I believe that community-based prosecution is so important. And that does not mean that people are not held accountable for their crimes. That means that people are more willing to come forward and work with our office to make sure our prosecutions are good, strong, and lead to the accountability.
Well, listen, thanks for taking the time. We appreciate you being here. Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz.
Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.